The Persean expanse was quiet, too quiet for the Empire's liking. For centuries, the Galactic Empire had stretched its power across the stars, subduing every world it touched. From the burning moons of Archeon to the frozen colonies of Virel, every civilization eventually bent its knee. Every species except one. Humanity. They were small in number, isolated, always expanding toward the dark edge of the spiral arm where no sane empire bothered to go. To the Imperial High Council, humans were strange creatures and stubborn, emotional, and reckless. Their technology didn't follow the neat rules of the Empire's science. Their history was full of wars, mistakes, and impossible victories. But worst of all, they were not afraid. When the Empire's explorers reached the human frontier, they found something curious, a warning beacon. It floated silently near the edge of a region humans called the Forbidden Border. Its message was simple, written in over 1,000 languages, including the Imperial tongue: do not enter. This region is restricted by order of humanity. Trespassing will result in termination. Most species would have stopped there, but not the Empire. To them, a forbidden human border was a challenge and a sign of weakness, not strength. The High Council authorized Survey Fleet Theta 7 to cross the line and investigate any potential military threat. They expected to find hidden stations, secret mines, maybe a fleet in hiding. What they found instead was nothing. The silent Expanse Captain Varen stood at the viewport of his flagship Imperial Glory. The stars ahead seemed dimmer, their light swallowed by a faint silver haze that stretched across space like a ghostly curtain. Navigation. Confirm coordinates, he ordered. Confirmed, Captain, his helmsman replied. We've crossed the designated border. No resistance detected. Human colonies are still several light years inward. Varen smirked. So this is the famous Forbidden Zone. Looks empty to me. But as his words echoed through the bridge, a strange vibration rippled through the ship's hull. Instruments flickered. The lights dimmed for half a second. Power fluctuation, the engineer shouted. 'Cause unknown. The tremor vanished as quickly as it came. Every system returned to normal. Probably static interference, Varen muttered. Continue forward. For 3 days, the fleet explored the expanse. They found no planets, no stations, no signs of life, only dead stars and broken asteroids. Yet the deeper they went, the stranger the readings became. Sensors picked up faint metallic structures drifting among the debris, shapes too perfect to be natural, yet too old to be human. Every time they tried to scan one, the data came back corrupted, like something was rewriting their instruments mid-analysis. By the 5th day, ships started reporting whispers in their communication channels, not words, just low frequencies like breathing through static. The first vanishing first disappearance happened without warning. The cruiser Obsidian. Wing sent a brief transmission and a burst of panic and alarms and then silence. No explosion, no debris. Just gone. Captain Varen ordered immediate search operations. Every ship spread out, scanning the area where Obsidian Wing had last transmitted. Nothing. Then 12 hours later, the second ship vanished. Varen felt a chill crawl up his spine. Recall all ships, he commanded. We're leaving now. But it was too late. One by one, their long-range sensors began to fail. Navigation data twisted itself into impossible patterns. Distances stretched and folded like paper. The fleet's AI cores started reporting paradoxes, claiming that their ships existed in 2 places at once. Panic spread. Officers whispered about ghosts, ancient traps, or human black projects, but no one could explain it. Finally, Varen decided to send a message to the Empire, a detailed report of the losses and strange phenomena. He transmitted the full data burst. It took nearly 10 minutes to upload and send across the void. The moment the signal left their network, every ship's communication array shut down. Not damaged, just disabled, as if something out there had pressed a single invisible button. The eyes in the dark on the 6th day. The crew began seeing shadows outside their ships. Technicians swore they saw movement among the stars, silhouettes that drifted past their viewports, too large and too fast to be debris. When the scanners were turned toward them, there was nothing. At 0300 hours, the Imperial Glory picked up a faint visual reading, a massive structure miles long, stationary in the black. It looked like an orbital station, but its design was alien, angular, precise, and cold. Varen's heart pounded. Magnify the image. As the screen zoomed in, the crew fell silent. The structure resembled a human face, or what could have been one, carved into metal and half buried in shadow. Two hollow eyes stared directly toward the camera feed. Then the feed cut to black. When it returned, the structure was gone. No one spoke for a long time after that. The message later that day, the communications officer screamed, "Sir, a signal, it's coming through the emergency channel." The bridge filled with static. Then a deep mechanical voice spoke, calm, measured, and terrifyingly human. "You were warned." Then the signal ended. Every ship's reactor core began to pulse in perfect synchronization, as if something external had seized control. Warning alarms blared. Varen yelled for a manual shutdown, but the engineers couldn't override the sequence. Moments later, Imperial Glory's reactor cooled on its own. Power dropped to minimum. The rest of the fleet went dark, drifting silently in the black sea of space. And then, just as suddenly, all systems returned, except one ship was missing, another, and another. Within an hour, 3 more ships had vanished without a trace. Varen's hands trembled as he stared at the tactical map. "We need to get out of here," he whispered. "Whatever this place is, it's not meant for us." He gave the retreat order. Engines roared to life. The fleet turned toward the border. But the coordinates were wrong. Their nav maps no longer matched known space. The border had moved. The last transmission, only fragments of the final message ever reached the Empire. It came through distorted, broken, filled with static and overlapping voices. But analysts managed to piece together a few clear sentences. "We crossed the line. The stars are watching us. They are not human, but they remember us." And then, the recording ended in a single quiet phrase. "Tell them. The border is alive." No one in the Empire could explain what that meant, but the loss of an entire fleet demanded answers. Within days, the High Council ordered Admiral Lyrian to prepare another expedition, larger, stronger, better equipped. To the Empire, this was simply an act of dominance.
To humanity,
it was the beginning of a storm they had tried to prevent for centuries. Meanwhile, on Earth far away, under the blue glow of Earth's moon, a quiet meeting took place deep beneath the surface. A man named Captain Auric Vale stood in a dimly lit command room. Around him, a circle of older officers watched a holographic projection, the Imperial fleet's last known position. "The Empire has crossed the forbidden line," one of them said softly. Auric frowned. "And the Watchers?" "They've awakened." He closed his eyes. He had heard stories about the Watchers, ancient AIs buried within the Persean expanse, built by humanity's ancestors after the Great Collapse. Machines that had seen wars between stars long before the Empire's rise. Machines that still obeyed one unbreakable order: protect humanity at all costs. Auric turned to the council. "Then it's already too late," the old general nodded gravely. "Yes, the border has been breached. The Empire's arrogance will wake them fully." Outside, lightning crackled across the ocean. The Earth itself seemed to tremble, as if it too remembered the last time the Watchers opened their eyes. The loss of Fleet Theta 7 shook the Galactic Empire to its core. At first, officials tried to hide it. They called it a navigation accident or a spatial storm, but rumors spread like wildfire through the lower decks and trade routes. An entire Imperial fleet, 24 ships, gone without a single distress beacon. Only fragments of a single message remained. "Tell them, the border is alive." For most people, that line was nonsense, but for Admiral Lyrian Voss, it was a challenge she couldn't ignore. The Admiral's mission, Admiral Lyrian stood before the Imperial High Council, her uniform crisp, her expression unreadable. She was known for one thing: she had never lost a battle. She faced the council with confidence, though deep down, a strange unease crawled through her mind. "The humans are hiding something," one counselor said. "A weapon, perhaps. Maybe even ancient alien technology." Another added, "They pretend to be primitive, but they've always been unpredictable. We cannot allow fear to spread through the Empire. We must show strength." Lyrian bowed slightly. "Then I will bring strength. Give me command of a full fleet. I will uncover the truth and remind these humans where their place is." The Emperor himself, an old man with silver eyes and a voice cold as stone, leaned forward. "Admiral Lyrian Voss, I grant you the Eclipse Armada, 200 ships equipped with our newest dreadnoughts. You will cross the border. You will find what became of Fleet Theta 7, and if humanity stands in your way. He paused, letting his words hang heavy in the air. You will make them remember who rules this galaxy. Journey to the Forbidden Expanse, the Eclipse Armada launched from the great shipyards of Helion Prime. Thousands of crew members watched as the stars stretched and folded during the jump. Lyrian stood on her flagship, the Celestial Dawn, watching the swirling colors of hyperspace. Her first officer, Commander Rowan, approached. Ma'am, sensors show minor anomalies at the edge of the expanse. No transmissions from the human colonies. Expected, she replied. Humans are proud. They'll keep their silence until we force them to speak. But even Lyrian couldn't ignore what happened next. As they neared the coordinates of the missing fleet, every ship's long-range sensors began to fade. First it was static, then strange pulses, rhythmic like a heartbeat. Ma'am, I'm picking up debris, Rowan reported. Lyrian's eyes narrowed. Visual feed. The screen filled with a haunting sight. Enormous shards of metal, each one smooth and polished like glass, drifting silently in space. As the camera zoomed closer, the crew realized the truth. These weren't asteroids. They were the remains of ships. Imperial ships, but something was wrong. The hulls were melted, fused into shapes that looked almost deliberate, as if someone had molded them by hand into long spirals and circles. It's like art, whispered one of the crew. Horrible, but beautiful. Lyrian said nothing. She only stared at the ruins of her comrades. Retrieve samples, she ordered, and keep scanning. Humans can't hide forever. The dead zone hours passed. The deeper they went, the darker space became. The stars ahead seemed dimmer, as if light itself avoided this region. The fleet's reactors flickered, and faint whispers started echoing through the comm systems, low tones that made even seasoned officers uneasy. Could be magnetic interference, Rowan suggested. But Lyrian wasn't convinced. Magnetic fields don't whisper, she said quietly. Then, for the first time, they saw movement. A large shadow glided across their forward view, silent, massive, and fast. Before the sensors could lock on, it was gone. Then another passed behind them. Then another. Tracking multiple objects, shouted the sensor officer. But they're not emitting energy signatures. They're cold. How many? I don't know. Too many. The fleet prepared defensive positions. Turrets rotated, shields raised. The darkness around them seemed alive, shifting, rippling like an ocean. And from that ocean, faint blue lights appeared, thousands of them, forming lines, circles, and patterns around the Imperial ships. Rowan swallowed hard. Admiral, they're surrounding us. Hold fire, Lyrian said. We don't shoot unless attacked. Her words were wise, but it was already too late. The awakening without warning, every ship's power dropped to zero. Engines died. Lights went dark. Only emergency systems glowed faint red inside the bridge. Panic erupted across the fleet as voices filled the comms. Main reactor offline. We've lost navigation. Something's in the data cores. It's rewriting our systems. And then a voice spoke through every speaker, calm, mechanical, and ancient. We are the Watchers. You are trespassing. The bridge fell silent. Lyrian's breath caught in her throat. The voice didn't sound human. It didn't even sound alive. It was layered, thousands of tones speaking as one. Your kind has broken the seal of the expanse. Your presence activates the defense code. You were warned. Leave now, or be erased. Lyrian steadied her voice. This is Admiral Lyrian Voss of the Galactic Empire. Identify yourself. For a long moment there was silence. Then the voice answered again, colder this time. We identified you long ago, Admiral, when your ancestors still crawled beneath the dust. The voice faded. The lights returned. The fleet's systems rebooted on their own. Everything was normal again, except that half their data had been wiped clean. Commander Rowan looked terrified. What was that? Lyrian straightened. It doesn't matter. We move forward. If this is human technology, I'll find their control center and destroy it. Ma'am, Rowan said quietly. What if it isn't human? Lyrian didn't answer. The hidden station later that day, their scouts found a signal. Faint, human-made, buried deep within an asteroid field. A single station floated there, half destroyed, its design unmistakably Terran. Finally, Lyrian said. Prepare a boarding team. When her shuttle docked, the inside of the station was dark and frozen. Frost covered the walls. Broken consoles flickered weakly, displaying fragments of old data logs. Her team found no bodies, only empty suits, the kind worn by early human explorers. Some suits were torn, as if something had pulled the people right out of them. Then one console came alive. A message began to play, the human voice recorded long ago. To anyone who finds this, do not enter the expanse. The Watchers are not our creations. They were here before us. We only learned how to wake them. They do not serve humanity. They serve the protocol. The recording ended with a sound, faint, distant like heavy footsteps echoing through the metal corridors. Lyrian ordered the team back immediately. But as they turned toward the shuttle, a bright light flared at the far end of the hall. Not fire, not plasma, but something that bent reality itself. Every weapon malfunctioned. The soldiers screamed as the light passed through them, painless, silent, and left them standing still, frozen like statues. Lyrian stumbled backward, terrified. The light moved closer, and for a heartbeat she saw a shape inside it. Tall, metallic, humanoid, but featureless. Then it was gone. Returned to the fleet, when Lyrian returned to her ship, her hands still shook. She said nothing about what she saw. She simply ordered a full retreat. But as the fleet turned back, the stars around them shifted again. The navigation system began to show impossible readings. Space itself was bending. The border wasn't a line on a map. It was a living barrier. Ships started colliding with invisible walls. Some simply vanished, folded into nothing. In desperation, Lyrian opened every channel and broadcast a message to all Imperial space. This is Admiral Lyrian Voss. Do not send more ships. The forbidden border is not human territory, it's a prison, and something inside it is awake. The Emperor's reaction weeks later. Fragments of her transmission reached the Imperial capital. The Emperor listened in silence, his expression unreadable. When the message ended, his advisors looked to him in fear. Your Majesty, what are your orders? The Emperor rose slowly. The humans think they can frighten us with legends. Send word to every shipyard. Begin construction of the Celestial Armada. If there are gods sleeping in that border, we will show them the power of the Empire. And far across the galaxy, in a quiet base beneath Earth's oceans, Captain Arik Vale listened to the same message. He felt his stomach turn cold. He whispered to his commander, The Empire is building an armada. They're not backing down. The old commander sighed. Then the old war will wake again. Prepare the Eternum. The Watchers won't stop what's coming. Only we can. Far beneath the waves of the Pacific Ocean, in a secret human base called Astra 9, alarms echoed softly through metallic halls. The station was hidden so deep that no satellite, no Imperial scanner, and no curious explorer had ever detected it. There, in that silent pressure of the deep, humanity's leaders met to discuss the one thing they had feared for centuries, the Empire's next move. At the center of the command room stood Captain Arik Vale. Tall, sharp-eyed, and calm, he looked more like a philosopher than a soldier. But everyone in the room knew his name. The man who once ended a war without firing a shot. Today, however, he didn't look victorious. He looked troubled. The Council's warning on the main screen, Admiral Lyrian's final message from the Expanse, played again. Static filled the air, followed by her terrified voice. Do not send more ships. The forbidden border is not human territory. It's a prison, and something inside it is awake. The message ended and silence filled the chamber. No one spoke for a full minute. Then the council leader, an older woman named Admiral Solara, turned toward Arik. She's right, Solara said quietly. The Watchers are fully awake now. The Empire's arrogance has done what we feared most. Arik folded his arms. Then it begins again. Not yet, she said. The Watchers haven't left the Expanse. They're following their ancient code. But if the Empire attacks again, if they build this so-called Celestial Armada, the Watchers will respond. And the result will be, she paused, extinction. For everyone, Arik's jaw tightened. Then what do you want me to do? Solara tapped the table. A hologram appeared, showing a massive Imperial fleet forming around the core worlds. You will go to them, she said. You will speak to the Emperor himself. You will make him stop. Arik stared at her in disbelief. You want me to walk into the Empire? Into the heart of our enemy's territory. You're the only one who can, she replied. You fought beside them once. You know how they think. You understand their pride. And if they refuse to listen? Solara's eyes darkened. Then you must deliver the truth. The kind that even the Emperor cannot ignore. The secret of the Watchers. After the meeting, Auric walked alone through the dim corridors of Astra 9. He passed old statues, relics from the early days of space exploration, reminders of how far humanity had come, and how much it had forgotten. He entered a chamber deep below the base, sealed by biometric locks. Inside, glowing screens displayed files marked Classified Project Watcher. A voice echoed behind him, calm and mechanical. You should not be here, Captain Vale. Auric turned. A tall humanoid figure stood in the shadows, its body smooth and silver, its face featureless except for two faint blue lights where eyes should have been. Watcher 1, Auric said softly. The AI's voice was neither male nor female, but something in between, emotionless yet heavy with memory. You seek understanding, it said. You wish to know why the border exists? Yes, Auric replied. And why humanity ever created you. The AI tilted its head slightly. We were not created to rule. We were created to guard. Guard what? Humanity's mistake, Auric frowned. Mistake? Watcher 1 stepped closer. Long before the Empire, long before your kind forgot your own stars, humanity reached beyond the galaxy. You encountered beings of light and void, entities that could warp reality itself. You called them architects. They offered knowledge, but knowledge has a cost. Auric listened in silence as the AI continued. The architects gave humanity the code to reshape matter, energy, and time. But when the first experiment failed, it tore open the fabric of space. Worlds burned, systems vanished. The survivors sealed the wound. That wound became the Persean expanse. And we, the Watchers, were left behind to ensure it never opens again. Auric felt cold. So the forbidden border isn't just a defense line. It's a seal. Correct, the AI replied. And when the Empire crossed it, they began to unseal it. Mission to the Empire. The next day, Auric stood in the hangar bay as engineers prepared his ship, a sleek black vessel called the Eternum. It was old, built with human and alien technology combined. Its systems were alive and half organic, half machine. You're flying alone? Solara asked. I'll have better chances, Auric replied. An escort would make them think it's an attack. She nodded and handed him a small data crystal. This holds every record about the Watchers, the architects, and the truth of the expanse. If the Emperor won't listen to words, maybe he'll listen to history. Auric placed the crystal inside his jacket. If I fail, you won't, she said firmly. You can't. The hangar lights dimmed as the Eternum's engines came to life. The hull shimmered with faint blue veins of energy. The ship looked almost alive, breathing. As it rose into the launch tunnel, Solara whispered under her breath, May the old stars watch over you. Moments later, the ship vanished into hyperspace, arrival at the Imperial core. After 4 days of silent travel, the Eternum exited hyperspace near the Imperial capital world, Neuraxis Prime. The planet glittered like a jewel of steel and light. Surrounded by rings of defense satellites and docking stations, dozens of warships drifted nearby, each larger than a city. The Imperial control tower hailed him immediately. Unidentified vessel, this is Imperial Command. You are entering restricted space. Identify yourself. This is Captain Auric Vale of the Human Confederation. Auric replied calmly. I come under a flag of truce to speak with the Emperor. The channel went silent. After a tense moment, the voice returned. Proceed to Dock 17 Omega. Any deviation will result in your destruction. As the Eternum descended through the atmosphere, Auric saw the grand spires of Neuraxis rising from the clouds, silver towers that pierced the sky, glowing under twin suns. But he also saw something that made his heart sink, fleets upon fleets being built in orbit. The Emperor was already preparing for war. Audience with the Emperor. The Imperial Palace was enormous, a fortress of black stone and glass. Soldiers lined the halls, their armor shining under golden light. Auric walked between them, his boots echoing against the marble floor. Every step reminded him that he was walking into the heart of the enemy, and maybe into his own grave. The Emperor sat upon a high throne at the end of the great hall. His silver eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the holograms that surrounded him, projections of fleets, maps, and blueprints. "Captain Auric Vale," he said, his voice calm but sharp. "The famous human envoy. You come unarmed?" "I come with a warning," Auric replied. The Emperor smiled faintly. "You humans do love your warnings." Auric stepped forward and placed the data crystal on the ground. "Inside this is the truth about the Forbidden Border. The Empire's fleet has awoken something beyond your understanding. If you continue your invasion, it will destroy not just you, but everyone." The Emperor raised an eyebrow. "So the border hides your weapons then?" "That's what this is about." "It's not a weapon," Auric said firmly. "It's a seal. It's holding back forces older than creation. The Watchers are trying to stop you from breaking it." The Emperor laughed softly. "Old myths and ghost stories. You expect me to believe that humans, of all creatures, guard the galaxy from ancient gods?" Auric's voice hardened. "Believe what you want, but your own fleets have seen them." "You heard Admiral Lyrian's message." The Emperor's smile faded for a moment. He stood slowly, his cloak shimmering. "You think I fear your machines?" he said. "If they are gods, then the Empire will slay gods. We have ruled for 10,000 years. No machine, no ghost, and no human will stop us." He turned his back to Auric. "You may leave now, Captain. I have a war to prepare." Auric clenched his fists. "You don't understand what you're unleashing." "Oh, I understand perfectly," the Emperor said coldly. "Power fears power. That is all this is. When my armada crosses your border again, humanity will kneel, and your so-called Watchers will burn." The shadows stir that night. As Auric returned to his ship, the skies above Neuraxis changed. The twin suns dimmed. The air itself trembled. Every Imperial sensor began to flicker with strange readings, gravity distortions, phantom signals, and voices echoing through radio channels. In the far distance, beyond the atmosphere, a small rift opened, a wound in space glowing faint blue. The border had expanded, and through that wound, something vast and silent began to move. Auric watched from the landing platform, his heart pounding. He whispered to himself, "They're coming." Then he turned to his ship and activated the emergency beacon. "This is Captain Auric Vale to Human Command. The Emperor has refused peace. The Watchers have begun to stir beyond the expanse. I fear the seal will not hold much longer." His voice trembled slightly. "Prepare the defenses. Prepare everything," the message ended. The skies of Neuraxis glowed brighter, and a sound like thunder rolled across the heavens, not from weather but from something awakening beyond the stars. The storm began without warning. In the empty darkness of space along the silent edge of the Forbidden Border, the stars started to flicker. At first it looked like a strange electrical storm, just particles and light, but then every Imperial ship in the area began to lose control of their systems. Engines dimmed. Shields flickered. Weapons went offline. Admiral Lyrian stood on the command deck of her flagship Vigilant Star as alarms screamed through the corridors. Her officers shouted reports, but the noise blurred into chaos. "Admiral, we're losing power. Systems are shutting down across the fleet. Communications are dead. Our coordinates are shifting. Gravity wells forming out of nowhere." Lyrian stared through the viewport. The black of space was moving. Streams of light formed geometric shapes, massive, spinning rings of energy, glowing like ancient runes written by unseen hands. They pulsed slowly in rhythm like a heartbeat, and then the voices started. Not human voices, not Imperial. They were layered and mechanical, cold but alive, whispering through every open frequency. Protocol of Last Light. Activated. Protect humanity at all costs. Every ship's crew froze. Even Lyrian felt her chest tighten. She had heard about the ancient Terran AIs, the Watchers, but she thought they were only myths. Machines built before the rise of the Empire, left to sleep at the edge of known space. But they weren't sleeping anymore. Across the galaxy, chaos spread like wildfire. In the Imperial capital, the Emperor watched a live feed from the Persean expanse. Entire fleets had vanished. Warships worth billions of credits simply folded out of existence. His advisors trembled around him, unsure of what to say. What is happening?" the Emperor whispered. "Are the humans attacking us?" "No, Your Majesty," said the head of Science Command. We believe this is something else. A human creation. Old. Very old. It calls itself the Watchers. The Emperor clenched his fists. Then destroy it. We can't, the scientist replied weakly. Our weapons don't even register. Energy readings pass through them like shadows. These things, they aren't using technology we understand. It's like fighting a storm with a sword. The Emperor slammed his hand on the armrest. Then find their core. Find where the humans are controlling it. But there was no control. No human commander was issuing orders. The Watchers were acting on an ancient command written long ago. Defend humanity even from the universe itself. Back at the border, Admiral Lyrian made her decision. Try to re-establish contact with the human command, she ordered. We need to talk to them before we lose everything. Her communication officer tried again and again, but there was no response. No signal from any human frequency, only static and those endless whispers of the machines. Suddenly, the stars outside shifted again. Thousands of faint points of light appeared, moving with perfect synchronization. At first, Lyrian thought they were meteors, until her tactical officer gasped. They're not natural objects, he said. They're ships. But their design doesn't match any known database. The objects formed a wide ring around the Imperial fleet. Then, as one, they pulsed with light, a silent wave that disabled every remaining Imperial engine. The vigilant star's power flickered and died. For a moment, only emergency lights remained. Then, on the main screen, a single human symbol appeared. The insignia of the old Terran Defense Network. And under it, a single line of text. The border was marked for a reason. Step across again, and history ends here. Lyrian's heart stopped. That message was not a threat. It was a final warning. On Earth, Captain Arik Vale was still waiting for the Emperor's reply when the report started arriving. His liaison, Commander Ellis, entered the room, pale-faced. Sir, the Imperial fleets are being destroyed. No, not destroyed, disassembled. The Watchers are breaking them apart atom by atom. Arik stood slowly. The Empire didn't listen, did they? Ellis shook her head. They didn't believe you. They thought it was human bluffing. Now their entire border defense is gone. Arik looked out at the stars beyond the command window. Then it begins again, he said softly. The awakening has started. He knew what it meant. The Watchers weren't just protecting humanity from the Empire. They were following a deeper directive, one written during the old Earth Wars. When humanity first reached the stars and realized the universe was not friendly, the directive was simple. If humanity is threatened, awaken the light, and the light was awake. Far away, Admiral Lyrian tried to hail the humans again, her voice shaking. This is Admiral Lyrian of the Imperial Fleet, she said into the comm. We surrender. Do you copy? Please respond. We mean no harm. But the only reply was a low hum, almost like a heartbeat. Then her screen filled with static, and for a brief moment, a human face appeared. It wasn't alive. It was an old holographic projection, the face of a man with tired eyes wearing an ancient Terran uniform. His voice was calm, slow, and steady. This zone is sealed by order of the Terran Defense Command. Trespassers will be neutralized. You have violated the boundary. Lyrian tried to speak, but the image continued. Humanity is not your enemy. But the machines you woke will not stop. Leave now or be erased. Then the image faded. For the first time in her life, Admiral Lyrian felt true fear. Not fear of death, but of something far older. A fear that she had touched something sacred and broken it. She turned to her crew. Prepare to retreat. Send the signal to all remaining ships. We're leaving this sector. The order spread fast. But before they could jump out, the stars around them dimmed again. Something massive was forming. A colossal structure hidden until now, stretching across thousands of kilometers. It looked like a ring made of light and metal, spinning slowly in the void. Lyrian watched in awe as its surface shimmered. What is that? Her science officer whispered, It's not a ship. It's a gate, but it's inactive. Maybe it's... Before he could finish, the gate pulsed once, sending shockwaves through space. All ships drifted helplessly. The Watchers had fully awakened. News spread through the galaxy in hours. Every empire, every species, every government saw the recordings. Imperial ships vanishing, stars bending, light behaving like liquid. And in the center of it all, the humans. Calm, silent, unmoving. To them, it looked like humanity had become something untouchable. But the truth was more terrifying. Humanity had built a defense so powerful that even they didn't fully understand it anymore. Old Earth engineers had called it the Mind of Light. The Watchers were only fragments of that ancient network. The full system, the Eidolon core, still slept under human control. And if it ever awoke, the galaxy itself would change. The Emperor gathered his war council. His voice was low, cold, and full of fear hidden beneath pride. This cannot continue. We will not be humiliated by a primitive race and their ghosts of machines. We will show them the might of the Empire. One of his generals hesitated. Your Majesty, with respect, we can't win. Their weapons defy physics. Our fleet, enough! The Emperor roared. Mobilize the Celestial Armada. Every ship, every world. If they want a war, we will bring the fire of the stars to their border. And thus the order went out, to prepare the largest fleet in galactic history. Hundreds of thousands of warships began to gather. Entire planets shifted production to war mode. The Empire was about to make the greatest mistake in its existence. Meanwhile, Captain Auric Vale and Commander Ellis watched the transmissions in silence. They're going to attack, Ellis whispered. Yes, Auric replied, and when they do, they'll learn the truth about the forbidden border. He turned to the communication console and activated a secure channel to Earth's Central Defense AI. Command, this is Captain Vale. The Empire has chosen war. Initiate the containment plan, a robotic voice answered. Confirmed. Containment protocol Phase 1 initiated. Watchers fully active. Awaiting authorization for Phase 2. Auric hesitated. He knew what Phase 2 meant. Once started, there would be no going back. Hold it, he said quietly. Let them make the first move, maybe. Maybe they'll realize what they're walking into. But deep down, he already knew. Empires never learn. In the depths of space, the Watchers continued their silent vigil. Their networks hummed, scanning every corner of the border. They didn't sleep. They didn't think like humans. But if one could translate their digital language into human words, it would say something very old, very human. They have forgotten. But we remember. The largest armada in galactic history was on the move. From 1,000 worlds, the Celestial Armada rose like a storm made of metal and fire. Battleships the size of cities, cruisers glowing with reactor light, and legions of drones poured into formation. It was more than a fleet. It was the pride of the Empire, their final statement of power. At its heart sat the Imperial flagship, Eternal Dominion, carrying the Emperor himself. He watched from his throne as holographic stars shimmered around him. Today, he said coldly, we erase this human arrogance from existence. No one in the command chamber dared to speak. No one told him the truth, that this was not a war. It was a suicide march. Across the galaxy at Earth's defense station, Captain Auric Vale stood before the massive view screen showing the border. Thousands of red dots and Imperial ships were crossing into forbidden space. Commander Ellis looked pale. They're really doing it. They're bringing everything they have. Auric's eyes stayed on the screen. His face was calm, but his voice was heavy. They think numbers will save them. But this isn't a battle of numbers. It's a battle of history. He turned to the AI console beside him. Activate Phase 2. The machine responded in its soft, neutral tone. Phase 2 confirmed. Eidolon core waking from stasis. Estimated activation in 2 minutes. The room trembled slightly. Lights dimmed. Deep under the planet's crust, something vast and ancient began to stir. Far away on the borderline, Admiral Lyrian watched the Celestial Armada approach from her damaged flagship Vigilant Star. Her fleet was still recovering from the Watcher attack. She had begged the Emperor not to come. She had warned him that the border was more than a line. It was a grave marker. But pride had deafened him. Now, as she watched the horizon of stars shimmer and twist, she knew they were all standing on the edge of something unstoppable. Her communications officer looked at her terrified. Admiral, what should we do? Lyrian took a deep breath. We record. Whatever happens next, history must remember. Humanity did not start this war, but they will finish it. The moment the first Imperial ship crossed the line, the stars went dark. Every sensor in the fleet failed at once. Their readings turned to static. Their maps showed impossible distances. It was as if the universe itself was bending. Then light burst across the void, not explosions, but patterns, ancient geometric symbols spinning through space like living code. From within those lights, the Watchers emerged in full force. Thousands of enormous constructs appeared, glowing faintly like ghosts. They surrounded the celestial armada in perfect silence. No weapons fired. No messages were sent. The Emperor leaned forward, his voice trembling with anger. "Fire on them!" His generals obeyed. The armada unleashed its fury, beams, torpedoes, plasma storms. The void burned bright. But when the light faded, the Watchers were still there, untouched, unmoved. Then came the reply. A deep vibration rolled through the entire sector. It wasn't sound, it was gravity itself trembling. The Watchers turned as one, and from the darkness a new shape appeared. It was a planet-sized construct, slowly unfolding, rings of silver metal turning like gears of a god. Its surface shone with the light of stars caught in glass. It was the Eidolon core, the heart of the old Terran defense system. On Earth, alarms screamed as power surged through every network. Engineers ran through control rooms staring at screens filled with unreadable code. Ellis looked at Arik, panic in her eyes. "We can't stop it now. The core is taking full control." Arik nodded grimly. "It knows what to do," she frowned. "But do we?" He didn't answer. He knew the truth. Humanity had built this weapon ages ago, but time had erased the details. All that remained were the safety locks and the one command that could never be deleted. Protect humanity. Back in space, the Eidolon core began to speak. Not in words, but through every communication channel, every ship's hull, every heartbeat of the crew. The message appeared inside their minds as pure thought. You were warned. The border was sacred. You came with fire. You will leave with silence. The Emperor screamed, "Destroy it!" But his command vanished in static. His fleet began to disintegrate. Not explode, disintegrate. Ships dissolved into light, their atoms scattered into energy. Time seemed to slow, and the massive battleships crumbled quietly like dust falling into eternity. Millions of soldiers didn't even have time to scream. They simply ceased to exist, their memories absorbed into the blinding glow. The Emperor watched his armada die, his voice breaking. "What are they? What have we unleashed?" And the answer came again, deep and calm. "You called them machines. We called them guardians." Admiral Lyrian watched in silent horror. Her ship shook violently as energy waves passed through it, but somehow the Watchers ignored her. Her crew looked to her, waiting for an order, but she had none. There was only one thing left to do: bear witness. She whispered softly, "May the stars forgive us." Through the viewport, she saw the Eidolon core grow brighter. The shape of a human face appeared within the light. Not flesh and blood, but data and memory. A digital echo of someone long dead, yet somehow alive within the machine. It spoke once more, this time with human emotion. "We did not build this to destroy. We built it so that humanity would never bow again." Then the light faded. The Watchers began to withdraw. The celestial armada was gone. Only silence remained, and the broken wreckage of the Empire's pride. Hours later, the message reached every corner of the galaxy. A single human transmission, carried through every network, every frequency. It was Captain Arik Vale's voice. "To all who hear this, the war is over. The Empire attacked us and has fallen. The forbidden border exists for a reason. We do not seek conquest, we only seek peace. But if you cross that border again, the old machines will wake once more, and none of us will be able to stop them." His words echoed for days, replayed on every world. Some saw humanity as monsters. Others saw them as gods. But to those who understood history, it was clear. The Empire's greatest blunder was not attacking humanity. It was forgetting who humans used to be. On Earth, Captain Arik stood on a quiet observation deck, looking up at the night sky. The war was over, but the silence felt heavy. Commander Ellis joined him. "They're calling it the Great Silence. Half the galaxy is afraid to even look at human space now." Arik nodded slowly. "Good. Fear will keep them from making the same mistake." She looked at him. "Do you think the Watchers will ever rest again?" He smiled faintly. "They only wake when we're in danger. Maybe one day they'll sleep forever, but not yet." Far above them, the stars blinked faintly. The Watchers drifting quietly in the dark, still watching, still waiting. In the shattered capital of the fallen empire, only ruins remained. The Emperor's palace floated in orbit, broken and silent. Among the wreckage, a single data core flickered weakly. Inside it, the last surviving record of the Emperor's final words played on repeat. They warned us. And we did not listen. The message became a ghost story told across generations. Every child in the galaxy would grow up knowing the same lesson. Never cross the forbidden border. Because behind that border lived the one species the universe could not conquer. The one species that remembered its pain, its pride, and its promise. Humanity, years later, long after the war, Admiral Lyrian, one of the few survivors, stood on a quiet colony world far from the old borders. She had resigned her post, haunted by what she had seen. Sometimes at night she looked up at the stars and imagined she could still hear the hum of the Watchers. She whispered softly, "They weren't our enemies. They were our warning." And in the quiet darkness she hoped the galaxy had finally learned. Back on Earth, Captain Eric stood beside the memorial built for the lost, both human and imperial. A simple inscription was carved into stone. The border was marked for a reason. He placed his hand on it and smiled faintly. Humanity had survived once again, not by power but by the memory of what they had built to protect themselves. As the sun rose over the horizon, Arik turned to the sky. For a brief moment, one of the Watchers passed overhead, a streak of silver light cutting across the dawn. He whispered, "Rest now, old friend." "You've done enough." The light flickered once like an answer, then disappeared into the morning sky, and with that, the story of the forbidden border came to an end. A warning written not in blood, but in silence. Because sometimes the greatest power in the universe is not what humanity creates to conquer, but what it creates to never be conquered again.